let's talk about what's really important as far as being a bass player is concerned. Um, in some of the comments in some of my other videos, I'll get these comments about slapping and showing off and different things. And, I love videos where, bass players, doing all that cool slapping stuff, and doing doing all of those sorts of things, double thumbing. This stuff's kind of cool. I like watching those videos, but that's not real life, as I like to say. Really, if you're out there and you're trying to get a gig or keep a gig, that's typically, unless you're playing in like a hardcore funk band, typically that's not going to get you a gig or going to keep you a gig. Because really the main role of the bass is to be a supportive instrument. And the role of a bass player is to be a supportive player. That doesn't mean that we can't play something melodic like I did when I first started out here, but that's typically the exception. It's not the rule. I've played a lot of times where I never did anything to show off. And if you think about it logically, if you're playing with a group and they have a good singer, other good players that play the chords, those are really the people in the band that are typically going to be fronting the band or what have you, and your job is to support those people. As a bass player, that's your job, is to support those other instruments. The bass isn't typically a melodic instrument. It's typically used as a supportive instrument. It lays the foundation for the other instruments. And that's the reason I say that, is because the bass player is usually playing one note. He's not playing those kind of things, not typically. He's playing the G. The guitar player or the piano player, they're playing that note. They're adding that melodic thing. So if you have the attitude that you're going to be a supporting player, a lot of times it'll get you a lot further than trying to be a ball hog, as they say. Mike Watt put out an album a long time ago, and it was called Tugboat or Ball Hog. And the idea was that, a bass player can be one or the other. He can be, he can hold down the bottom end, or he can be a fancy show off. But I think you'll get a lot more gigs if you have more of the attitude of trying to be the tugboat, the supporting player. That's going to get you a lot more gigs, and it's going to get you a lot more money. That's what the gigs ultimately result in. The things that I found that were important as far as keeping a gig or getting a gig is one, being able to play, right? That should be a basic prerequisite. We shouldn't even have to talk about that. You should know all of the basics of the instrument. You should have good time. You should know all the notes. You should know some scales and be relatively proficient with those things. You should know a ton of songs already, and that's like the most basic part of it. The second thing is you should have a good attitude. That's actually just as important as being a good player. If you're a positive person, other people are going to want to be around you, and that's super important. Should be easy to get along with. Typically, like I said, unless you're the front man, the bass players, unless you're Sting, right, or Paul McCartney, typically the bass player is not fronting the band, and they're not typically the front man of the band. Your role is to support those people, and the faster you get to accepting that, the least amount of heartache you're going to have as a player. Another thing would be, we talked about having, knowing how to play, having a good attitude. and then also having some reliable equipment. That's the last thing. One thing that I always like, I don't think I've pointed out before, but one thing that'll make your playing more reliable is to run your cable through your strap. That way, when you trip or step on it, it doesn't pull it out of the bass. And I like to do that with my amp too. I'll wrap the cord around a handle somewhere, so if it gets yanked on, it doesn't pull it out of the amp. I've also found over the years, as far as equipment goes, is the simpler I can make my equipment, the more reliable it's going to be, and the more it's always going to work. So, these are just basic things. I like to talk a lot about these basic things because I don't think they get talked about that often. I think we assume that just everybody knows these things, but these are just real basic things that we all need to be aware of. So, hope that helps. Have a good day and Happy New Year.